In communities across the U.S., fall means football season. I'm Lee Zurich.
And I'm Tisha Powell. Long before game days, there's typically summer training when extreme heat and sports can make for a dangerous, even deadly combination. Our coverage begins at Mid-American Nazarene University in Kansas. That's where family members say 19-year-old Mizell Law struggled during a practice in late July 2023 and died from heat-related injuries.
He was such a special person. He really was.
School officials told us they have not been officially informed of a cause of death, but Law's parents say his body temperature reached 108 degrees. And the teen spent days fighting for his life in the hospital until his organs failed.
We were told people don't last 24, 48 hours. He gave us a week.
Their heartache still fresh when we spoke to them in August of 2023. And for another family in Maryland, it hits close to home.
Reporter Heather Graf takes an in-depth look at the push to protect student athletes through life-saving lessons and potential legislation at the federal level.
He was 6'2", wore a size 15 shoe when he was like maybe 7th, 8th grade.
Jordan McNair was a big kid with big dreams.
As a family, we always thought Jordan would play on Sundays.
And in May of 2018, he was well on his way, playing for the University of Maryland's football team when he collapsed during an off-season workout.
Literally, I got a call from University of Maryland campus police officer, and he said, hey, there's been an incident on the field.
Jordan's parents, Marty and Tanya, learned he'd suffered heat stroke at practice, and they rushed to the hospital.
Son, if you can hear me, squeeze my fingers. Son, if you can hear me, blink your eyes. I had no idea what a heat stroke was. I had no idea that, it could lead to us having a conversation 3 days later, less than 72 hours, with a organ transplant doctor, because 85% of his liver is in necrosis.
But within 2 weeks, Jordan was gone.
It was just, life changed for us at that moment. And then what we realized, kids kept dying.
The National Center for Catastrophic Sport Injury Research actually tracks those fatalities and has found it happens most often in football. In fact, the center says 157 football players have died from exertional heat stroke since 1960, stretching across all levels of play, from youth programs to professional. And more recently, between 2018 and 2022, the sport saw an average of 2 heat stroke deaths per year.
It was like, how do we turn this pain into some type of purpose?
And so began the Jordan McNair Foundation and this family's mission to save lives by raising awareness about the dangers of heat-related illness in student athletes.
If I could do it all over again, I would have told him to listen to his body. First of all, when his body told him to stop, stop. Bottom line.
When we sat down with Marty McNair, he was visiting the Hamilton Youth Football Club outside Baltimore. Bittersweet, because this is the same organization where Jordan first fell in love with the sport.
Yeah, this is where it all started at.
And as the kids practice,
I always get emotional during draft day.
Marty holds a meeting with their parents.
It can happen just like that.
Sharing Jordan's journey, as he's done countless times over the last 5 years, with families, coaches, and players all over the country.
The main thing is this, family. Plant these seeds of self-advocacy in your student athletes now.
Marty also talks about signs and symptoms of heat stroke.
Anybody know what a heat stroke is? Show of hands. Anybody?
And for more insight on that,
every second counts.
We spoke to the president of the National Athletic Trainers Association.
It starts with something as simple as the athlete might get a little dizzy, confused, they may become nauseous.
What makes it so dangerous?
Well, it's basically the body's inability to cool itself anymore. And if the core temperature becomes too high, it becomes life-threatening for that athlete.
Yet she says heat stroke deaths are preventable with early recognition and proper treatment.
Which is a cold immersion tub that has to be cool enough so that that athlete is placed in that tub immediately before they're put in an ambulance and taken to the hospital.
It's why the McNairs have now donated about 400 cold water immersion tubs to sports teams nationwide.
400 literally from Alaska to Florida.
Plus, Marty says they're advocating for legislative changes, including a bill recently introduced in Congress that's called the Jordan McNair Student-Athlete Heat Fatality Prevention Act. If approved, it would require college athletic programs to develop and implement a venue-specific heat illness emergency action plan that includes cold water immersion equipment.
What does it mean to you to have legislation introduced in Congress named after your son?
I just thought that was the right thing to do to honor Jordan's legacy.
And for this still grieving father,
I think that a well-practiced emergency action plan would have saved Jordan's life.
that's the only playbook that matters.
Do you have an emergency action plan? Do you have athletic trainers? Is anybody CPR certified? Do you have safety equipment? Do you have a cold water tub? Do you have an AD machine? Do you have a first aid kit? These are all things that you should be asking any organization prior to signing your child up to play with them.
Perhaps the most high-profile heat-related death in football is that of NFL player Corey Stringer, who died in 2001 after he collapsed during training camp with the Minnesota Vikings. The Corey Stringer Institute is now dedicated to heat stroke prevention and says there's been a 100% survival rate when the athlete is cooled immediately through cold water immersion.
The Corey Stringer Institute has outlined the best practices for preventing catastrophic injuries in student athletes.
The Institute has also scored states by their use of comparable policies. Florida, New Jersey, and Georgia are the top 3 states with sports safety policies, according to the Institute's evaluation. Minnesota, California, and Maine scored the lowest.